heavy wooden doors of the courtroom creaked open, drawing all eyes to the entrance. A hush fell over the room as a young girl no older than 10 stepped inside. She was small and fragile-looking with soft blonde hair tied into a messy ponytail. But what caught everyone's attention wasn't just the girl, it was what walked beside her. A bobcat. Its tawny fur was sleek and well-groomed, its muscular body moving with quiet, predatory grace. Golden eyes, sharp and intelligent, flicked across the room, scanning the unfamiliar faces. Its presence sent a ripple of tension through the courtroom. The judge's gavel hadn't even struck yet, but already this was no ordinary hearing. The little girl, her name was Lily Thompson, clutched the bobcat's harness tightly, her small fingers barely fitting around the thick strap. She walked carefully, her expression a mixture of quiet confidence and nervousness. The bobcat, however, moved without hesitation, its ears twitching slightly at the whispers around them. Judge Marcus Holloway, a seasoned man in his 60s, adjusted his glasses as he observed the peculiar duo. His years on the bench had exposed him to countless cases, criminals, victims, liars, and innocents. But never before had a wild animal entered his courtroom like this. "Is this some kind of joke?" a lawyer muttered under his breath, shaking his head. But this was no joke. Lily and her bobcat Shadow had come for a reason. The case begins. The courtroom was packed, reporters scribbled furiously, cameras flashed, and murmurs spread like wildfire. "Order!" Judge Holloway finally spoke, his deep voice silencing the room. His gaze shifted to the girl. "Miss Thompson, I assume you are here regarding the petition?" Lily swallowed hard and nodded. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a crumpled piece of paper, a legal appeal. "Yes, Your Honor," she said, her voice steady but small. "I'm here to stop them from taking Shadow away." A collective gasp rippled through the room. Now people understood. This wasn't just about bringing a bobcat into court. It was about saving it. The battle for Shadow had begun. Across the room, a stern-looking man in a gray suit, Mr. Blackwell, a state wildlife official, stood up. His expression was unreadable, but his posture was rigid, authoritative. "Your Honor," Blackwell began, "this is a wild animal. A bobcat does not belong in a child's care. It is neither safe for her nor for the public. The state requires immediate relocation of the animal to a proper sanctuary." Lily flinched but held her ground. Shadow, sensing her distress, let out a low, almost protective growl. The sound was enough to make a few people shift uncomfortably in their seats. Judge Holloway raised a brow. He was intrigued. This wasn't a simple case of ownership. It was a battle between law and something deeper, something human. He leaned forward. "Miss Thompson, can you explain why you believe this bobcat belongs with you?" Lily took a deep breath. She knew this was her moment. If she failed, Shadow would be taken away, locked behind metal bars, away from the only family it had ever known. So, she told her story, a bond born from tragedy. "It started 2 years ago," Lily began. "My mom was a wildlife rescuer. She worked in the mountains helping injured animals. One night there was a storm, a really bad one. Trees were falling, lightning struck everywhere, and then there was a fire." The courtroom fell silent, every eye locked onto the little girl as she spoke. Lily's fingers curled around Shadow's fur, drawing comfort from his presence. "My mom didn't come home." A heavy pause. Even Judge Holloway looked taken aback. "They found her truck at the edge of the forest. She had tried to save some animals caught in the fire. They said she didn't make it." A few quiet gasps echoed through the room. Reporters stopped writing, their pens hovering above their notepads. Lily blinked rapidly, willing herself not to cry. When the firefighters cleared the area, they found Shadow. She was just a baby, burned, scared, and alone. My mom had tried to save her. She was the last thing my mom ever tried to protect. Shadow, as if sensing the weight of Lily's words, nuzzled against her leg, a soft, purring sound breaking the silence. Lily looked up at the judge, her eyes shining with quiet determination. "She saved her life, and when my mom couldn't come home, I made sure Shadow did." The entire courtroom was still. Even Blackwell, the state official, looked momentarily thrown off. Judge Holloway exhaled slowly, rubbing his temple. This was no longer just a legal matter. This was personal. A long silence stretched before the judge spoke again. "Miss Thompson," he said carefully, "I understand your attachment, but wild animals are unpredictable. How can you be sure Shadow is safe?" Lily didn't hesitate. Instead of answering with words, she did something unexpected. She signaled Shadow. It was subtle, just a tiny movement of her fingers, but the bobcat responded instantly. In front of a room full of people, the wild animal sat down obediently, its tail curling around its paws. Its golden eyes remained locked on Lily, waiting for her next command. The entire courtroom was in shock. Judge Holloway leaned forward, fascinated. "You've trained her?" Lily nodded. "She understands me, and I understand her." Judge Holloway studied them both for a long moment. Then, just as he was about to speak, something unexpected happened. Shadow's ears twitched. Then, in a flash, the Bobcat whipped its head toward the courtroom doors. Before anyone heard the sound of footsteps outside, a second later, the doors slammed open. A man in uniform rushed inside. He looked panicked, his breathing heavy. "Judge Holloway, sir, there's a situation." He stopped, his eyes widening when he saw the Bobcat sitting calmly at Lily's side. But Lily wasn't looking at the officer. She was staring at Shadow because the Bobcat had sensed something before anyone else did, and whatever it wasn't good. The moment the officer burst into the courtroom, the entire room stiffened. Every eye turned toward him, but Lily's focus remained on Shadow. The Bobcat was rigid, its ears pinned back, muscles tense like a coiled spring. Something was wrong. Judge Holloway, composed despite the sudden interruption, cleared his throat. "Officer, what is the meaning of this?" The man hesitated, his chest rising and falling as he caught his breath. "Sir, there's been an incident outside. We need to clear the courtroom immediately." Murmurs rippled through the audience. Reporters exchanged glances, hands tightening around their pens. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife. Lily's grip on Shadow's harness tightened. The Bobcat had sensed danger before anyone else had. Judge Holloway studied the officer for a moment before speaking. "What kind of incident?" The officer hesitated, his gaze flickered toward the doorway, as if expecting something or someone to come through at any moment. Lily's heart pounded. Her instinct screamed that this wasn't just about a normal courtroom disturbance. And then before the officer could answer, boom! A loud crash echoed from outside. It sounded like metal slamming against metal. People gasped. A few stood up, ready to flee. Even the judge's normally composed expression faltered. Lily's pulse quickened. What was happening? She turned to Shadow. The Bobcat was staring at the entrance, body stiff, tail flicking anxiously. Lily had seen this reaction before. It was the same way Shadow had behaved when they had encountered a predator in the wild, and that realization sent a chill down her spine. This wasn't just some random disturbance. There was something out there. Shadow's warning. Judge Holloway slammed his gavel, restoring order as people murmured in alarm. "Officer, explain what's going on. Now!" The officer took a deep breath. "Sir, we received reports of a wild animal on the premises." Silence. Then, all at once, chaos. "What do you mean, a wild animal?" one lawyer demanded. "You saying there's another one out there?" "It's not Shadow, is it?" someone else whispered, eyes darting toward Lily's Bobcat. Lily's stomach clenched. "Another animal? Here?" The officer shook his head. "No, it's not a Bobcat, but it is large and it's loose." The room tensed. Judge Holloway narrowed his eyes. "What kind of animal are we dealing with?" The officer hesitated, and that hesitation said everything. Lily exhaled shakily. She turned to Shadow, pressing a hand against the Bobcat's side. Shadow was breathing fast, eyes locked onto the doorway. It was as if she knew, and then Lily remembered something. Earlier that morning, she had heard strange noises near the courthouse parking lot. At the time, she thought nothing of it, just the sound of a busy city. But now, it all made sense. Something had been lurking nearby, and Shadow had sensed it. A dangerous truth. "Sir," the officer finally said, his voice tense, "it's a mountain lion." The courtroom erupted in noise. People gasped, some scrambling to grab their belongings. Lawyers and reporters whispered frantically, fear flickering in their eyes. Judge Holloway immediately banged his gavel again. "Everyone remain calm." But calm was impossible. A mountain lion, a fully grown predator, was roaming outside the courthouse. It was unheard of. Lily's mind raced. Mountain lions rarely wandered into human areas, and when they did, it was usually out of desperation, hunger, injury, or something worse. She looked down at Shadow. The Bobcat was still focused, its muscles twitching slightly. It wasn't just reacting to the news, it was listening. Lily's breath hitched. Shadow could hear the mountain lion. The tension in the room escalated when the officer's radio crackled. A voice came through, urgent. Confirmed visual. The lion is in the underground parking lot. It's cornered but agitated. We need animal control immediately. Lily clenched her fists. She had to do something. She knew how these situations usually ended. Authorities would try to sedate the animal, but if it resisted or if they deemed it too dangerous, they would put it down. She wouldn't let that happen. Lily made a decision. Your Honor, she spoke suddenly, her voice loud and clear. The judge turned to her, eyebrows raised. I need to go down there. The room went silent again. Mr. Blackwell, the state wildlife official, scoffed. Absolutely not. This is exactly why wild animals don't belong in a courtroom or with a child. Lily ignored him. Her eyes were locked onto the judge. Please, I have experience with animals. I know how to approach them. I know what to do. Judge Holloway studied her carefully. Lily, that is an incredibly dangerous situation. I know, she said, but if we don't handle it the right way, that mountain lion is going to die. Silence! Even Blackwell hesitated at that. Lily took a step forward. You've seen how Shadow reacts to me. She trusts me, and I know that mountain lions are different, but I also know they don't attack unless they feel threatened. She swallowed. I just need a chance to help. For a long moment, Judge Holloway said nothing. He just studied the young girl standing so firmly before him. Then, at last, he let out a slow breath. How would you do it? Lily's heart leaped. I need to see it first. I need to understand if it's scared, injured, or just lost. If I can figure out what's wrong, I can help calm it down. The judge tapped his fingers on the desk. He wasn't the kind of man to take reckless risks. But he had also seen something extraordinary today, a bond between a girl and a wild animal unlike anything he had ever witnessed. He turned to the officer. Is the parking lot secure? The officer nodded. It's empty. Everyone has been cleared out. Judge Holloway sighed, then finally he gave a single nod. All right. Lily exhaled in relief. But then the judge raised a hand. Under one condition. Lily tensed. What is it? You don't go alone, he said. Shadow goes with you. Lily blinked in surprise. Then, after a moment, she nodded. She wouldn't have it any other way. The descent into danger began. The courtroom was still buzzing as Lily turned to Shadow. The Bobcat was already alert, as if it knew what was coming. She knelt beside her companion, pressing her forehead gently against Shadow's. Are you ready for this, girl? She whispered. Shadow let out a soft, deep purr, the kind that told Lily everything she needed to know. They were in this together. As Lily and Shadow turned toward the exit, the entire courtroom watched in silence. Even Mr. Blackwell, usually skeptical, looked uncertain. Judge Holloway gave her one last firm look. Be careful, Miss Thompson. Lily nodded, and then, with her Bobcat by her side, she stepped out of the courtroom toward the unknown. Lily's heart pounded as she stepped through the heavy courthouse doors, Shadow close at her side. The air outside was thick with tension. Officers were scattered around the building's perimeter, radios crackling with urgent chatter. She could feel the weight of every stare, reporters, police officers, and courtroom spectators who had followed to witness what was about to unfold. But none of that mattered. Her focus was on the underground parking lot. That's where the mountain lion was waiting. A tall officer approached, gripping his radio. Miss Thompson, are you sure about this? Lily lifted her chin. Yes. She glanced down at Shadow, who was standing still, ears pricked forward. The Bobcat wasn't scared, just alert. She was already listening for the mountain lion. Another officer hesitated. We've got animal control on the way. They'll handle it. Lily clenched her fists. If they handle it the way they usually do, that animal won't leave here alive. That made the officers pause. The lead officer sighed. All right, but you listen to my commands. The second this gets dangerous, we're pulling you out. Lily nodded. Understood. With that, she stepped toward the darkened entrance of the underground lot. Shadow padded beside her, silent as a shadow, a predator in the dark. The parking garage was eerily quiet. The sounds of the city faded behind them, replaced by the soft hum of flickering overhead lights. The air was thick with the scent of oil and damp concrete, and something else, something wild. Shadow paused, her ears twitching. Lily immediately followed her lead, stopping in her tracks. She listened, the scrape of claws against pavement. A low, rumbling breath. Lily's stomach tightened. The mountain lion was close. She took a careful step forward, scanning the dimly lit space. The police had cleared the area, but the tension still lingered like an unseen force. Then, movement. In the farthest corner of the garage, half hidden behind a row of concrete pillars, a shape shifted in the shadows. Lily's breath caught. There it was, a fully grown mountain lion. Its golden fur rippled under the dim light, muscles tense like coiled steel. Its ears were pinned back, eyes glowing with fear and uncertainty. And it was watching them, a test of trust. Lily forced herself to stay calm. Fear wouldn't help here. She knelt beside Shadow, keeping her voice steady. "Do you see him, girl?" Shadow didn't move, but Lily could feel the shift in her posture, a quiet understanding. The bobcat let out a soft, chuffing sound, low and reassuring. The mountain lion's ears twitched. Lily exhaled slowly. Good. It was listening. Carefully, she removed her backpack and unzipped it, pulling out a bundle of dried meat. It wasn't much, but it was something. She held it out, making sure her movements were slow and deliberate. "I know you're scared," she murmured, voice barely above a whisper. "You're not supposed to be here, are you?" The mountain lion didn't move, but his eyes flicked to the food in her hands. Lily took a careful step forward. The officers behind her tensed. She could hear them whispering into their radios, ready to intervene. But she didn't stop. She took another step. The mountain lion let out a low, warning growl. Shadow, still at Lily's side, responded with a soft trill, not a threat, but a message.